Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to IG Nova. Today we have a checkpoint worksheet for physics subject. We're gonna solve today some thermal questions and heat energy, temperature, and their methods of transferring all of these. This worksheet only multiple choice questions. We're gonna discuss as much as we can. We need to understand why we choose this answer. Let's start. First question. The diagram shows electricity cables being put up on a warm day. The cables are left loose between the poles, as shown in the diagram. We have here these cables in a warm day. Why they left loose here? First, by heat, we know that matter expand, and by cold, matter contract. This is the first point we need to focus on. So, they left loose now in a hot days. Why? They will contract on the cold days. Yeah. So, this answer is accepted. Let's check the other answers. They will contract on in a very warm days. Cannot be. They will expand on a cold days. Cannot be. They will expand on a very warm days. But lose here for contraction, to give a space for contraction. Question 2. The diagram shows some ice being used to lower temperature of some warm water. What is the main process by which the water at the bottom of the glass becomes cool? C. As this ice, it's cool. So according to convection current says the cold molecules become denser and falls down, take place of less dense material which is moves up, and by continuous circulation movement it's a convection current. Convection current is one of very important we have to know. So this happens by convection, surely convection, condensation, not conduction, just convection. Question 3. The temperature of carbon is heated evenly along its length. That's an happen when we heat this rod. By heating, you know that the space taken, the space that occupied will increase. So this is the expanding, which make the increasing in space or in volume. For that, it's increasing only in volume. For option E, it becomes less heavy. It's about the mass. The mass doesn't change because masses depend on the amount of matter, the amount of molecules. They doesn't change. They don't change here. For that, it cannot be A. For B, it becomes longer. Yeah, maybe longer because it will expand. So I'm gonna go for B. Question 4. A telephone engineer connects a wire between two poles. When the weather is very cold, he makes the wire very loose. The wire passes over a road, the weather changes, and it becomes very hot. What could happen to the wire and why? So, it's very loose now and cold. When it becomes hot, what's gonna happen? If it becomes hot, this expanding, while they are very loose, it will expand more. So, what could happen? It breaks? Nope. It cannot break. Or we don't say it breaks, it's just expanding. So it breaks, cannot be. It says and touches the cores on the road. I have now surety. Why? It contract. Nope, it's expanding here. So I'm gonna go for D. Question 5. The metal surface of a kettle is hot. What happens to the cool air outside the kettle when it comes into a contact with the hot kettle? You have a kettle and hot air. This is the kettle. Hot air, sorry, it's hot, and cold air there. What's gonna happen? The density of the air decreases and air falls. If the density decreases, cannot fall. It must goes up. The density of the air decreases and the air rises. Yeah. So the cold air surrounding this kettle, so it will become less dense and moves up. So I'm gonna go for B. Question 6. Which beer contains only physical quantities that vary as temperature and so could be used in making a thermometer? Why, or what's the principle to make a thermometer? First, activity of radioactive source and volume of gas. And you know that if you have a thermometer here, this thermometer, it has like mercury bulb that has a mercury liquid expand by heating. So, cannot be radioactive source. I'm not going for A. Mass of liquid, actually, mass, it has no effect here. So, cannot be mass. Activity of radioactive source, still radioactive cannot be. While volume of a gas or volume of a liquid, so I'm gonna go for D. Question 7. An engineer want to fix a steel washer on a steel rod. The rod is just too big to fit. So into the hole of the washer. How can engineer fit the washer on the rod? You need here to fix this rod and this washer. So what's gonna happen, or what he can do? First, if you expand the washer and contract or cool this part, cool the rod, so it may contract. So here gonna be heating, and here is cooling. For that, cool the washer and put it over the rod. We cannot cool the washer. Cool the washer again, nope, not European. Heat the rod, nope. Rod must be cooling. Cannot see. So I'm gonna go heat the washer, yeah. Place it over the rod. So the right answer is D. Question 8. A hot drink is left in a room. That's a temperature of 20 degrees. What has happened to the drink after 10 minutes? See, if you have here a hot cup, the density will be lower after 10 minutes. No, after 10 minutes, it's gonna be cooling. So density cannot be lower. Internal energy is lower, yeah, because if you remember the heat, describe internal energy. For that, the internal energy will be low. Particles have equal energies, cannot be. Particles move more quickly, nope, it's cooling, so will move slowly. Question 9. A rod. Wow, one of very hard questions. You have to be focused to solve. A rod is made of copper and what joined together. The rod is heated at the joint in the center for about a minute. So it's heated here for about only 1 minute. At which level point will the temperature be lost and which point will it be higher? C. We know that copper is a good conductor. Wood is a bad conductor. Copper allow heat, electrons to transfer through it, while wood don't allow electrons or heat to transfer through. For that, the lowest temperature P, Q, or S, it must be P. So I'm gonna go for P. Highest temperature, and be careful for this tricky part. Here, energy will transfer. So on the left side, which is at the wood, energy cannot transfer or will gather here. All heat will gather here, so at Q, it's the highest. So I'm gonna go for A. Let's go for 10. Which line in the table shows the relative expansion of the free states of matter from its most expansion to the least expansion? Surely, expansion depends on the volume. So, a free volume will be expanded more. The least state of matter, which is gas, cannot be solid. Then liquid, which is volume, doesn't change, it varies because the spaces between molecules is very less than salt. So I'm gonna go for C. Question 11. Two otherwise identical cars, one black and one white, are at the same initial temperature. The cars are left in a bright sunshine and their temperature increases. During the night, their temperature decreases. Okay, so which car shows greater rate of temperature increase and which car shows greater rate of temperature decrease? If you remember that if you have a black and white, black is the good or the best absorber and best emitter, while white, it just reflect most of rays. So this is the best one, the black car. The greater, while it's best, so it will radiate faster or with a larger rate than white. The rate of temperature increase, it goes for black. A greater rate of temperature decrease goes also for black, so I'm gonna go for A. Question 12. Which row shows the surface that is a better absorber and surface that's a better emitter of infrared? Better absorber, better emitter, it's a black, so I'm gonna go for A. Question 13. A wooden beam is painted part black and part white. The beam absorbs infrared radiation from sun during the day and this infrared radiation surrounding the night. Wooden beam. Which part of the beam heats up more quickly during the day and which part cools down more quickly? More quickly, absorbing. So black and black. I'm gonna go for A. Same question with the same idea. Here, question 14. Student suggests some uses of containers made from good thermal conductors and for containers made from poor thermal conductors. In which row are both suggested uses correct? What is the best description for good thermal conductor and good thermal and poor thermal conductor or insulator? Good thermal conductor, keep cold liquid at a low temperature. No. Heat flows. So cannot keep it cold. Cannot keep it also hot. So conductor can transfer thermal energy from hot to cold. Yeah. Transferring thermal energy quickly to a cold liquid. Yeah. So maybe C, maybe D. For a poor thermal conductor, we cancel A and B. For poor thermal, transferring thermal energy quickly to cold, no. So keeping a hot liquid at a high temperature for a longer time than conductive, yeah. So I'm gonna go for D. Just read the question, explain to yourself, with your mind, and you're gonna find the answer inshallah. One end of copper rod is heated. We have here a copper rod and it's heated here. So what is the method by which thermal energy is transferred in a copper rod? For a copper, it has, for any atom, has free electrons at the outer shell energy level. So electrons here will transferring along the copper rod. This is the main method. Vibration happens, yeah, but it's mainly by this flowing of electrons because of heat energy. By the way, this is the same method of electricity transferring. Electricity, conductivity, it happens by flowing of electrons. The same idea here, but by heat. So, free electrons transfer energy from a cooler end to hotter end. Nope. It moves from hotter to cooler object. Free electron transfer, yeah, from hotter end to cooler end. Yeah, so I'm gonna go for B. C, the option C and D. Molecules of copper move molecules don't move, cannot move. Maybe they vibrate, but cannot. Question 16. The same question, I think we solved it question 2 or 3. So the main process by which water on the bottom of the glass become cool because of convection of circular motion from circular movement of both molecules and particle field. Question 17. A piece of hot metal held by a clamp in a cold room. The air next to the metal becomes hot. The density of the air changes as the air moves. As a hot metal, hot air surrounding when air or molecules heated, density decreases, so it moves up, and cold air moves down. Convection current. So density of the air decreases, movement of the air as density decreases, it will move upward, so speed. Question 18. A girl is outdoors. She warms her hand by holding them near a fire, as shown. How does the heat from a fire reach air and be careful for this question because it comes many minutes out. See, we know that hot air, less dense, moves up. Cold air moves down. Convection current. But on the same level, no convection current happens surrounding at the same level. It happens upward, vertical. On the same level, heat will transfer by radiation, not convection current. So conduction cannot be, convection and conduction cannot be, convection and radiation cannot be. Only radiation. In this case only. He can use an oven or stove instead of this fire. Accepted also by the same level. Why? This movement of air, it's a convection. Question 19. What is the name of process of which is heat transfer using electromagnetic waves? Electromagnetic waves, one of them is infrared radiation, which is the way or how the heat comes from the sun. So it must be radiation. So space. Question 20. The diagram shows the refrigerator. The cooling unit is placed at the top. The cooling unit cools the air near it. What happens to the density of the air as it cools and how does it move? Cooling unit at the top. Cold air is denser. So cold air goes down and air here will be less dense. So it moves up and the circulatory movement convection current. Let's see. Density of the air will decrease, not density become denser, so density increases. Movement of the air, it moves down as is the answer. Now we're done. See you next time. Arginova with more worksheets related to checkpoint and GCSE. Assalamu alaikum.